If you feel poorer every single year, you're right. And it hit me when I looked at a normal UK payslip. What someone earned versus what they were actually left with after rent, council tax, and those ridiculous energy bills. And I realised this isn't a cost of living crisis. This is the collapse of a promise that a normal person can build a normal life in Britain. Let me show you exactly why this is happening. Let me start with a memory that always stays with me. I remember people in my parents' generation talking about buying their first home. It wasn't a luxury or some impossible life goal. It was something that you eventually did, a natural step for anyone leading a normal working life. Fast forward to today, and that experience feels like ancient history. The housing ladder hasn't been pulled up, it's been lifted into orbit. The house prices are now 9 times the average income. In the 1990s, it was about 4 times. Renting, which used to be the cheaper backup plan, is now its own kind of punishment. New UK tenancies average 1,300 a month, and you're lucky if the flat doesn't have damp or mushrooms growing off the walls. Landlords are selling up, supply is shrinking, and renters are bidding on crumbling apartments like they're auctioning off the crown jewels. Meanwhile, local housing allowance is frozen until next year, even though rents have exploded. Charities warn this will push 20,000 more renters, including 10,000 children, into poverty next year. I read a quote from a developer who said, half the country is unviable for development, and the other half is unaffordable. And when you hear that, you realize the truth. The system isn't malfunctioning, the system is the malfunction. You've seen the headlines, wages finally beating inflation. We're supposed to feel relieved, encouraged, and hopeful. But here's what the headlines don't say. Yes, regular pay has grown around 4.8%, and inflation is sitting at 3.6%. On paper, you're winning, but real life isn't on paper because number one decent year doesn't erase 15 years of wage stagnation. Since 2008 crash, wages have barely moved while everything else has shot upwards. Number two, the inflation measure they use doesn't reflect your reality. Food inflation is almost at 5%, energy, council tax, water, all rising faster than a pay packet. So, yes, technically wages are up, but that doesn't mean your money stretches anymore. One person in a survey said, my £100 weekly shop is now £150. And that's the UK, where even record employment can't protect you from falling behind. The Joseph Rowntree Foundation found that even a full time worker working on the national living wage can't afford a minimum acceptable standard of living. And that's when you realise something horrifying. We've built a country where having a job no longer protects you from poverty. Here's the part that genuinely breaks people: the cost of simply being alive. Last April was nicknamed Awful April because everything went up all at once: energy, broadband, water, council tax. Millions of people were hit with essential bills they had no chance of preparing for. A third had car repairs costing over £500. Another third had a boiler or washing machine breakdowns costing them over £400. And when you're living month to month, those aren't inconveniences, they're total catastrophes. And then comes the darkest statistic of all: 4 million people in England and Wales are now living in a negative budget. That means that even if they only pay for essentials, their income still isn't enough. 900,000 of them are children, nearly a million children. People love lecturing about budgeting, but how Do you budget better when the maths is broken from the start? This isn't about financial literacy. It's about survival in a country where survival is mathematically impossible for millions. Here's where it gets even more painful. In a healthy society, when life knocks you over, the systems you've paid into all your life are supposed to catch you. But in today's UK, they don't. UK satisfaction is the lowest ever recorded. Only 1 in 5 people, 20%, are satisfied. Waiting lists are endless. GP appointments feel like winning the lottery, and A&E, well, you already know. Public services are collapsing too. Councils are bankrupt, libraries are closing, roads are crumbling, bins are being missed, and while everything falls apart, you're paying more in tax than ever before. More money out, worse services in return. It feels less like a government and more like a subscription that you can't cancel. When you zoom out, a clear pattern appears. Housing crisis lead to financial stress. Financial stress leads to mental strain. Mental strain leads to higher demand for services. Services collapse. That leads to the loss of trust. The loss of trust leads to political paralysis. Political paralysis leads to no real reforms, and no reforms leads to deeper crises. Deeper crises leads to public outrage. Public outrage. Well, let's not think about where that leaves. And in the middle of all this, you, just trying to stay afloat. Only 27% of Britons trust the government. 45% almost never trust them to act in the national interest. And that's the final punchline. The people who are supposed to fix this don't. So normal people are left holding everything together, alone. If you feel poorer every year, you're not imagining it. If you feel exhausted, I'm sorry, but that's like normal now. If you feel like you're running faster just to stay in the same place, well, that's because you are. This isn't because you failed, it's because the system has failed you. The dream our parents were sold, and the ones that they naturally taught us, work hard, get a home, raise a family, retire with dignity, that's gone for millions. We've become a nation of survivors, patching the holes in our own lifeboats. But I want to hear from you. Which part hits the hardest? The housing, the wages, the bills, the public services? Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about what's really happening out there. This is Spence Unpacked, and I'll see you on the next one.